Next up, we have Pretish Abraham, who's is a program manager for Exchange. He oversees the Exchange team. He's led the on the engineering side. He's led the engineering teams responsible for Outlook, for Exchange, and for Exchange Online in terms of the developer platform for the last 2 years. So the APIs that you've seen, the Office 365 OData APIs, and a lot of the OAuth 2.0 work, he's been responsible for all of that. So in the last panel, I talked about, or we all talked about, I guess, kind of the stuff going on behind the scenes and how we talk to mail servers. He's going to talk a lot about kind of how you can get in front of your customer from a UI perspective. And you might say there's a lot of Gmail, there's a lot of Microsoft, whatever here, but I really do believe that those kinds of the platforms are where we want to get in front of our users. It's still where most of the world is today, especially on the business side, but as you'll see a little bit today, in other ways too. So I'm really excited to welcome Pretish. Thanks so much.
Thanks everyone. I'm excited to be here myself. This is my first time at Inbox Love. Really exciting because I met a lot of great people yesterday and a lot of fantastic sessions today. So thanks for bringing me up here so I could talk about apps for Outlook. Usually it takes me 1 hour to kind of cover through APIs and all that, but like everyone, I have only 20 minutes. So I plan to do a lot less slideware and more demos, and hopefully you'll get a picture of what I'm trying to present. So with that, I want to first step back and describe the Office platform. And there are really 2 pieces to it. The top half, apps for Office, what we commonly call as bring your apps to Office. So I want to introduce the main value proposition of that model through the lens of Outlook. Many of us here spend a lot of time in email, and yet we find ourselves context switching to use other applications to get things done. And I think all of us share that. That's why we're here. And we think you can get a lot more productive than just context switching all over the place. So what this model does is it gives developers the API and UX hooks to bring those applications and integrate them right inside Outlook so users can get things done. And integrate them in a deep and contextual manner. The second value proposition is you could write this app once, and it runs on all screens, mobile, tablet, wherever Outlook is. And I'm going to show a couple of demos where you can hopefully see that. And that app model is not just for Outlook. It also exists for the rest of the Office clients, Word, Excel, and PowerPoint, so forth. The bottom half, developers already have mobile applications and web applications, but they want to power it up using your Office data. And this can be achieved using your Office REST APIs and the OAuth model. And this is something Venkat just covered in the previous session. So that being said, I'm going to jump straight into demos right now and take you to the Outlook web app experience. So give me a second. There you go, come on. Sorry, I had to jump between my demo machines. Okay, there you go. What you're seeing here is the Outlook web app, what our customers call the Outlook online experience. The first thing I want to show you is in the reading surface, how we've extended it to add third-party apps. So you can see that there are apps right here, and we've designed it so that it's right in place and readily accessible by users. I want to start by showing one of our sponsors app, Cirrus Insight. Cirrus Insight is an ISP that brings your Salesforce data, as Ryan was explaining, and deeply integrates into your email experience. So how does this work? The app is just a set of HTML and JavaScript. And it uses a JavaScript library that we provide the app. And it's a very lightweight API to query who are the recipients in this message. And then it shows me if I have a CRM relationship with that person or not. So in this case, it's highlighted in purple. I already have a contact record for that person, Mike, in my Salesforce database. And so right here, in one view, without context switching and using Salesforce, I can see the activities, all the interactions I had with this person, past and future, the dollar amount, any open cases I have or closed cases, because I want to be prepared before I meet this person to make sure that I don't have any outstanding issues and stuff like that. But the cool thing is, if I want to add another activity, I can do it right here. So if I have a future meeting, I can add it right here without going to Salesforce. So again, make me really productive or add another opportunity. Now, one of the other things that this app really does is, typically, like any business meetings, you get to meet a lot of other people related to that opportunity. And so it lets you add contacts right away, right in this form. And again, without leaving Outlook. So it kind of pre-filled that person already. And because it is operating against the live Salesforce database, it can resolve and fill up my form right there. I can put a title. And just save the contact right there. And it's just super easy. Like in just a few steps, I was able to add this contact and, again, add opportunities and so forth. Now, the other app I wanted to demo is the DocuSign app. Now, it's asking me if I want to log in with Office 365 or DocuSign. So if you have DocuSign creds, you can just log in right away. But they've also built an Office 365 OAuth Flow sign-in experience so that if you're a new user to DocuSign, you don't have creds, you can just friction-free sign in using your existing Office 365 account. So I think everybody knows what DocuSign does. It electronically signs your message. And this is a good example, signs your document. This is a good example of how much productivity it gives you. Because typically, if I have a document like this, I need to print it, sign on it physically, scan it, and send it an email. So what this app did is, again, using that lightweight JavaScript API, it was able to access this attachment, upload it to the DocuSign site, and DocuSign would render its own tools. So I can apply my signature right there, whatever I want. I can put my initials, and click Finish. And this uploads this signed document back on DocuSign's cloud, and I'm done. And when I go back to the app, DocuSign gives me easy links to download the document, reply back to that person with a link to that signed document, or it even lets me save a copy of that document in OneDrive. And that's possible because it leverages our Office 365 OAuth flow. So you get access to mail, calendar, and documents too. So pretty cool. Now, the other experience I wanted to show you is a rich client. So one of the things is this is a symmetrical model. So you build your app once. It works on all versions of Outlook. This is our rich client. Like I'm sure many of you have seen it before. The citizen-side app works seamlessly. It's the same app, and it works in the read experience as well. So I'm giving some time to load here. I wanted to talk about how these apps can exist in the Compose experience as well. So I can reply to this message, and this is a customer. And we've extended the surface so that third-party apps can run in this Compose experience. I'm going to use the same citizen-side app. And it's the same one app. It just hooks onto both the read as well as the Compose surfaces. So in this case, citizen-side, again, is using that same JavaScript API. As you can see, it's now highlighted in purple, so it recognized this newly created contact I just added. And they also provide some value because a lot of organizations, they provide some generic sales templates on how to respond to people. So it lets me easily do that. And again, it knows I'm communicating with Gordon, and if I click merge, it was able to update the subject and add this boiler template here with the person's name over there. So again, super easy. Another cool thing that this app did is many customers, they love, or salespeople, they love to track their messages. So as it is sent out, they want to make sure that message is saved and associated with that Salesforce record, right, an opportunity. So deep integration, they use these APIs to track as the message is being sent. So that's cool. Now, the other thing I wanted to show you was your meetings as well. Give me a second. Having a network issue, I might switch to the web client. So in the meeting form, I can create a new event. That's your meeting form. And apps exist there in the meeting and appointment form as well. So I built this app called Campus App. I just did this like a few days back. I frequently invite customers and partners to visit us at Microsoft. And navigating, if you don't know campus, navigating is pretty hard. So I built this simple line of business app that queries our web service. It has a GIF to the map, and I can insert it. And so you can see that using that same lightweight JavaScript API, it was able to add a GIF of the map as well as directions right there. And now I can send it to my customers, and it's all right on their meeting, on their device or client, and easily get to the place where I want them to meet. So we talked about deep integrations in calendar surface, reading surface, the Compose surface, of course, both message and calendar. Now I want to talk about contextual. So this platform has a lot more to offer in terms of contextual experiences. So the one thing I wanted to show you was our platform understands natural language expressions. So for example, if there's a task implied, I want you to get this thing done. it understands that. If there's a meeting suggestion, it picks up on those entities as well, locations, address, phone numbers. And then what it does is it exposes them as APIs and activation triggers to developers. So as a developer, you can say, oh, if this entity is present in the message, activate my app. So that DocuSign app, if you remember, the only reason I see that there is because there was an attachment in that message. And what we've done here is, and this is our kind of a V2 experience for contextual activation. There's an app called Bing Maps, and it's activating because there's an address entity in this message. And easily, I'm able to just kind of do on-click on that entity, and I can get directions. I get a map for that place, and I get directions easily. So that's kind of pretty cool experience. And another one I wanted to show was a line of business integration example. So a lot of developers discuss bugs in their email. And again, they're context switching to use this application called Bugger. It's an internal product studio Bugger application where you can look up bugs. And this, again, we got this working where, hey, this app activates on the regular expression. And because of that, it was underlined. And I can click on it. It authenticates. It uses my signed-in identity, authenticates with the Microsoft server that's hosting this Bugger application. And we're able to look at all the bug details, who opened it, how do I reproduce this bug, and so forth. It's a great example of a line of business application where, again, you can keep your users productive by making them stay in their inbox and get their things done. So I talked about you can build this once and run in all the screens. So what is that about? So give me a minute while I switch to the mobile app. Just give it a second. I think the screen takes a while. OK. This is our Outlook web app on the mobile. So it's available on iOS, on the Apple Store, for iPhone, iPad, and it's also there on the Android, the Google Play Store, so on the Android phone as well. So I want to show all the apps that I showed you on the read experience. Cirrus Insight just works right there. And that's the main value proposition. The developer didn't have to build multiple apps for all these things. They just built it once. They tailored the UI to make sure it takes advantage of the form factor. But all the JavaScript code that powers this app is all the same. And that is good ROI for the developer because it cuts down on their cost and they can just exist on all these mobile surfaces. So again, this works on the iPad too. And I'll just show you quickly something else. So there's again a mail from my realtor who's asked me to check out homes. The same contextual activation works right there. So you can just click on it and the Bing Maps app works. I'm going to switch back. So I wanted to kind of build an app with you and just show you how easy it is. One of the things I want to do is, because I get these emails from these realtors to check out these homes, I wanted to check the property value associated with them. She always sends me expensive stuff. So I want to check the property value and make sure I get a good return for this. So let's do that together. So there's this tool called Napa. It comes with every Office 365 subscription as a customer, and you just have to enable it. So it's a web-based development tool, and you can build apps for SharePoint, for Excel, PowerPoint. In this case, of course, we're interested in the mail app, and I'm going to call it Zillow. And it's going to create some boiler template code and so forth. Now, what is this app architecture? It's very simple, like I called out before. It's got some HTML, it's got JavaScript, and it's got a manifest. I'm not going to go through the HTML part. It's pretty simple. There's just the UI aspect to it. If you look at the JavaScript, when I said how you can use our JavaScript library, there's an initialize routine, and your app can internally initialize the stuff that it needs to do. And then I call this function called display item details. And this is, again, boiler code that got added by this tool. And office.context.mailbox is the user, and you can query all the properties about the user, what time zone, what profile, and all he's using, his language. And you can query the item. And the item is the actual email item that the app activated on. And once you have the item, you can get the subject, you can get the from and to, and stuff like that. So I just want to show you this tool actually just builds this app right there. I didn't change a line of code, and it deploys it onto my mailbox. And that tool actually hosts it in its own cloud. It's called Napa Cloud App. And so you should be able to see the app now called Zillow right here. And you can see it was able to easily get the subject and the from. Now, this is not what I wanted. I wanted to have that same kind of contextual experience over here and kind of get the Zillow app going. So I'm going to make some modifications on this code. Same thing, I'll just walk you through the code. There's a function called get addresses. Again, I get the item, which is the current email item my app is activated. I do get entities, which are these entities that our platform automatically understands and extracts, and say I'm only interested in the addresses part. And then I call this function called show property value, and I load up the Zillow widget and pass in the address over there. On the HTML, I am going to fix the UI of the app, which is the HTML piece. I'm just going to cheat a bit over here. So I'm pretty fast. I think that's good. And that's just a div tag I added saying that, hey, when you load up the Zillow widget associated with this div tag. And the last thing I want to show you is the manifest. So manifest is how you describe where to load my app. Literally an app, you can think of it as like a web page, and Outlook is hosting it. And you just need to give it, hey, here's the URL to my app that I want you to load. Let's call it that. You can customize that, that rectangular box, the width and height. Permissions is very granular. By default itself, the permissions are kind of default to, oh, it's only against that email item that your app activated that you can get the body of the message or the attachments. In this case, I don't even need the body and stuff like that. I just need access to the entity, what the address is. So there's a permission called restricted. So very granular. And on the read form, so remember I said it's a URL to your app, and so here you can specify, hey, I want the app to load this way for desktops, for tablets and phone, where my form factor is more well-tuned. I want you to load those URLs. And this is some of the powerful activation triggers. So you can activate based on regular expression on the body, or on the subject, or on the sender. In this case, I want to extract an entity. And you have task suggestions, what I talked about, meeting suggestions, phone numbers, and so forth, but I'm interested in address. So I'm just going to hit apply, and I'm just going to hit play there again. I'm just going to deploy that. Oh, I don't think I got, let me just try that again. And there's the Zillow app, and I got the widget loaded right there. And if I want to move over to the Bing Maps app, I can do that. So it scales that way too. So that was about apps. So now how do I get, as an end user, get apps? We have an Office store, and by default, let me just close this experience, go back here. I can get more apps from the store. And as you can see, there are apps here. They are rated in the store. You can find out their privacy policy and just add it. And by default, all end users in Office 365 have access to these apps. They can go get these apps from the marketplace. They go through a stringent set of validations and verifications, make sure they have the right experience and their privacy policy is all correct on what they do with their data. But the other thing I wanted to show you, and as an end user, you can go and disable these apps whenever you want. You can just either remove them or disable them right there. But one thing I just wanted to show you quickly was the IT admin capabilities. From the grounds up, we designed to make sure that IT admins have a way to easily deploy their app, because that's powerful. If you get an IT admin to deploy your app, he or she can deploy for the entire organization, right? So these are the list of apps that are deployed from the entire organization. And if I don't want the campus, so right now the campus map is available. I deployed it to all my users, but it's disabled by default. End users can go ahead and just enable it whenever they want. But I can change that. I have 3 options here. I can say, hey, it's disabled by default, or actually want it enabled. Or if it's a really important line of business app, like an expense app that I built that contextually activates and lets you approve expense reports and stuff like that, I can make it mandatory. But if anytime I don't like this third-party app or it's just misbehaving, I can just uncheck this checkbox and it gets disabled globally the next second, right? So that's some of the IT admin capabilities I wanted to talk to you about. I want to go back to my presentation now. So in terms of demos, I think I'm done. Come on. Yeah, so this is to the gentleman's question. This is all built on open web technologies. You can use whatever web framework you want. It's just like how you build your regular website. And this was received like positively by developers too. They said they were able to reuse a lot of the code that they used for their website and use the same business logic to power up their app too. A lot of code reuse. And if it wasn't, simple, like it wasn't obvious, I mean, that's the bottom box is the client, and there's a manifest piece that tells Outlook, oh, here's where to load my app from, and your app could be hosted anywhere in your cloud. So what that means is distribution is not a problem. You want to fix a bug, you want to add a new feature, it's running on your cloud. Go ahead and do that. It becomes live everywhere. So I want to make an announcement. Apps for Outlook is also now coming to Outlook.com. And I think you picked that from Venkat's message too. So we're working on making this capability available over the next few months. But you can use the same API, the same app, to target both consumers and business users. You can start now. The same APIs work. And so while you don't have to wait for us while we're rolling out this capability. The same API works, and you can get going. And stay tuned. That's it from my side. Let me know if you'd love to chat. My email is right there. And thanks for your time again.